Hello, friends. Welcome in. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show, underway for another day. Happy to have you with us. It's 8 minutes past 12 o'clock, Middle Tennessee time, Thursday, October 10, 2024. It is Locks for Trump Day 222. 222 days I've been growing out my hair in anticipation of a new president-elect, and I think we're going to have one in 26 days, whether we like it or not. And it will be either Donald J. Trump or, God forbid, Kamala Harris. We shall discuss the status of the presidential election today on episode 669 of our proceedings. Thank you for being with us. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're appreciative of it. We've got Brian Wilson, obviously, coming up this afternoon at 3 o'clock for The Drive with Brian Wilson from 3 until 7, a part of live and local conversation starting early in the morning with Nashville's Morning News. Chris Hand normally in his position between 9 and noon, off this week on vacation. Matt Murphy here, and then the aforementioned Mr. Wilson. Speaking of the lineup, there is some news that we will take care of at some point over the course of the afternoon involving our morning show and His Highness. I think we're required legally to call him that now, Dan Mandis. More coming up on that in just a couple of minutes. Obviously, we're getting to the aftermath of Hurricane Milton, which made landfall last evening. There is a lot of surveying going on right now of flooding and damage after Hurricane Milton. I think it's safe to say that this was not necessarily the worst storm in the history of all storms, but it was a bad one. It's caused major damage, major property damage, and obviously we can anticipate loss of life on a storm of this magnitude. It is bad. It was not the worst case scenario, and we're thankful for that. It weakened in strength as it was heading on shore, as they normally do, by the way. I know that doesn't sell newspapers, as they say. It doesn't get eyeballs on television screens, but it is a normal occurrence that as they churn in the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, they strengthen to Category 4, Category 5 hurricane, and then once that portions of that storm start to hit land, that land obviously slows it down. And thankfully, that was the case for Hurricane Milton. But obviously, our thoughts and prayers are going out to the people of Florida and the extended area, and those that were suffering from Helene that continue to suffer at the hands of Hurricane Milton. I've not gotten an assessment regarding loss of life. Obviously, the death toll is out there. Let me see. The latest, let me just pull this up real quick, because, I mean, some of the footage that we're seeing is as news crews get an eyeball on it as we get drone footage and whatnot. A fifth. So there are now 5. I saw 4 this morning. The death toll is now increased to 5, which is relatively speaking, obviously every life is precious, but relatively speaking, that's an incredible low number. And one would guess that maybe it goes up as individual emergency crews get into various neighborhoods and scour the neighborhoods and look for those who decided to ride out the storm. Speaking of the death toll continues to rise as a result of Hurricane Helene, and we'll discuss that today as well as we desperately attempt to separate fact from fiction, reality from myth. And that's where I want to start the show today. Because sadly, Kamala Harris is clearly losing. And I am not here to politicize natural disasters or events that are beyond the control of individuals like the politicians that we see on our television screens on the regular. But sadly, there's a group of people that have chosen to politicize Hurricane Helene and to politicize Hurricane Milton. And that group would be easily characterized as the Democrats. Now, what the Democrats are telling us, what individuals like Kamala Harris, what they are telling us, in between, by the way, I would note, visits to Howard Stern, between the time that she gets off of the set of The View and heads over to the set of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Kamala Harris has taken to the television cameras to wag her finger at all of us, and Joe Biden did it yesterday as well, probably taking his marching orders from the Harris campaign, as one would expect the President of the United States to do, I say sarcastically. They've taken to the television screen and they're wagging their fingers at us, admonishing us that we don't need to engage in misinformation. Misinformation. So here's what I hear, and I understand that there are some wild stories that cannot be corroborated. By the way, I did a deep dive last night on the story involving Burnsville, North Carolina. We had a caller, 2 days ago, that said that there were 300 bodies in Burnsville and there were another 600 bodies that were unaccounted for. I can find zero evidence to substantiate that rumor. None. Does that mean it's not true? No, it doesn't. I'm telling you that I looked at my resources. I found reporting on the ground, and I can't find anything to substantiate the rumor that exists. That there are, and I don't fully understand why anyone would be hiding that loss of life. Now, does that mean that there's not tremendous loss of life? Of course not. There has been. Does that mean that the death toll will not continue to rise? No, of course not. The death toll continues to rise on a daily basis with regard to Helene. I'm just telling you that I take it very seriously to try to get to the bottom of some of these stories and rumors and some of the information, or dare I say misinformation, that exists on the intraweb. You try to cut through that. You try to get to the truth. So all of us are engaging in real time in this endeavor to try to figure out what is fact, what is fiction, what's real, what's not real. But here's what I am here to tell you that is most certainly real. There are families that are suffering, that are being told on their television screens that they're not really suffering because the federal government is here and they're here to help. And that simply isn't happening in some communities. It isn't happening for some. And for them, for those families and for those communities that aren't getting the help that they so desperately need, I hope they're turning to community groups. I hope they're turning to their neighbors, and I think they are. And I see those groups and those neighbors and those helpers constantly out and about attempting to offer the aid that is so much needed in the aftermath of these natural disasters. And in the midst of all of this, while people are suffering, while people are attempting to pick up the pieces of their very lives, while some of them are mourning their dead, I have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris telling me that based on who I vote for, I'm an idiot. That based on who I vote for, I'm engaging in misinformation. So, to synopsize this, the government wants you to know that if you have lost trust in the government because you have witnessed the government failing you, that this is your fault, not the fault of the government. Let me repeat that. The government of the United States of America wants you to know that if you have lost faith in the government because you have witnessed in real time the government failing you, that is not a failure of government, it's your failure. That's what Kamala Harris said yesterday. That's what Joe Biden said yesterday. And any belief otherwise is misinformation. And misinformation must be punished by the government. We are living in 1984. We are living in 1984. We have more information at our fingertips than ever before in human history. And that has created a dynamic by which the most powerful among us are not able to control the narrative in the fashion that they would see fit. And they're clapping back. And I don't believe that they care who's hurting right now. The most important thing, apparently, to Kamala Harris and to Joe Biden is to control the narrative. The most important thing, apparently, to Kamala Harris is to lie about Ron DeSantis not taking your telephone calls and call him selfish. The most important thing is that you do not question your government. You do not question FEMA. You do not question those in charge. How dare they? How dare they? In 2005, Katrina came ashore in just outside of New Orleans, Louisiana, as a Category 3 hurricane. It was predicted that it would destroy New Orleans, and it did not destroy New Orleans. The numbers of people, and it was in the thousands all told, the number of people that died in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina did not die because of that hurricane. They died because of government inefficiency. And, it's not the government inefficiency that the mainstream media has promoted over the last 20 years regarding this. It wasn't the immediate response to FEMA, although that was fraught with peril as well. And there were a lot of reasons why that didn't go well, to include the fact that the Democrats in New Orleans and the Democrats on the ground in Louisiana did not want to work fully with the Bush administration because they didn't like George W. Bush. But the mainstream media decided that they wanted an enemy to blame, and they decided that that enemy would be George W. Bush, and they went with that narrative, despite the fact that it was years and years and years of failures on the part of the federal government, on the part of the local officials who did not do the necessary things to ensure that the levees did not fail in the event of a catastrophic event like a Category 3 hurricane. But once that narrative was set into stone, it was next to impossible to move it. Right now, the powerful in Washington, D.C. are attempting to shift the narrative. They're attempting to tell you that FEMA did great in real time while people are suffering on the ground. They're trying to tell you that. And I'm telling you, the one piece of power that you have in your life above and beyond and over this government is your brain, your ability to think for yourself, your ability to separate truth from fiction, and our ability to freely express our opinion about our government regardless of the threats that that government makes against us. Yesterday, we were being threatened. When Joe Biden comes out and screams about misinformation and how it kills people, trying to blame us, that's what they're trying to do, right? All of this misinformation it's killing people. It's costing American lives. That is a threat. Whether you know it or not, that's a threat. I got a lot more to say about this. That's a heavy way to start the show, but I feel compelled that we discuss it this afternoon. We'll continue to focus on Helene. We'll continue to focus on those areas affected. Obviously, we'll focus on Milton as well. We'll chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. Bell K's behind the glass. We'll do all of the pleasantries in a moment because I have to take a break. Bell K's behind the glass, and behind him, Ken Weaver in the newsroom gathering headlines as we speak. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, folks. Matt Murphy for Men of Valor. It's a wonderful organization that I've been telling you about for some time, and I'm proud, so proud to be associated with them. Men of Valor go into our prison systems, and as an organization, they sit down with prisoners within that system, and they talk to them. They study with them. They counsel with them, and yes, they pray with them. Mentors and job partners, Bible study teachers, all. And they need volunteers, and they need your help. Men of Valor does such a great work to attempt as best they can, and they do a great job at it, that when men leave the prison system, they leave with a purpose and a head and a heart that is directed in a way that's going to be a contributing member to society, not in such a way that's going to lead them back to a life of crime and or drugs, back to prison. 90% of the men in prison get out. What type of men do we want to see getting out? We want men of valor. MOVministry.com is the website, MOVministry.com. Will you join us in helping set these captives free and making our community a safer place to live in the process? I hope you do. MOVministry.com.
Not the worst case scenario, but Hurricane Milton still doing significant damage, and the tornadoes took lives. We've got an update on that, and also Hurricane Helene coming up at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's the voice of Ken Weaver. Hello, Mr. Ken. I got off. I was on top of a soapbox, riding my high horse, and I got off both of those things, and now I'm saying hello. Hey, Ken, how are you?
What's going on, Brother Murphy?
What's happening in your world over
Man,
there?
I'm just writing stuff up here, dude. I'm waiting for RFK Jr. to publicly say something about the death of his 96-year-old mother.
Oh, that's right. Ethel? Is that what?
Yep.
Ethel Kennedy, the wife. Did they not have Ethel and Robert Kennedy? I want to say 12 children.
Something like that.
It was a lot of children.
A lot, dude. And, I mean, she survived so many members of the Kennedy family.
Oh, man. Well, I mean,
including great-grandchildren.
Oh, yeah.
That, I mean, it's an amazing story.
She used a Brewline racket. She was a big tennis player.
Ethel was?
Yeah.
Yeah. What type of racket?
Brewline.
Brewline.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's what that Rafael now
You don't remember?
uses.
I don't remember.
The Seinfeld episode.
No, I don't. Oh,
that's where that's from. Yeah, brother.
That's a deep cut, Bell.
That is, boy. That's
I get sometimes Bell says things and I get confused.
Brother Bell, man.
I have this look on my face like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't mean to, but I do. Hello, Bell. How's it going?
Hello.
Going on. Hey, by the way, let's spend a moment.
Right.
And Ken Weaver, you're a big part of this. You're a big part of this, buddy. And I know you don't want to say that you are, but you are. You know you are.
What are we talking about?
Talking about Dan Mandis.
Brother Dan Mandis.
Mandis in the morning.
Yes, sir.
On Nashville's Morning News. For those who don't know, and look, I would never, here's the deal. The Marconi Awards in broadcasting, is it fair to say, Ken, those are like the Oscars?
Radio Emmy.
Yeah.
It's like a radio Emmy.
I'd
Why
say,
wouldn't it be a radio Oscar, Bill?
Because we're more of a commercial, for free commercial endeavor like like TV is.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so it's a better comparison to call it an Emmy. Well, one way or the other,
it's still a pretty big deal.
it is about as good as it gets in terms of the industry honoring its best of the best.
Right.
And we found out last night that Dan Mandis and Nashville's Morning News was awarded the Personality of the Year across the entire United States of America in the large market category.
Yes, sir.
Dan Mandis is the big winner. Hey, big winner, Dan Mandis! Yeah! Let's all do a polka. Woo! Way to go, Mandis! How about that?
He ain't one-timing it here. He's mass communicating.
Mass communicating. Last night when Mandis texted us and told us that he had won, and everybody's got to line up tomorrow morning to congratulate Dan because I think he's back tomorrow, right?
Oh, you know he is, dude.
Oh, yeah.
He's not going to take more than 2 days. He's not going to take more than 2 days off. Right now, he's worried he's missing something.
Well, that's right. That's right. Well, last night he texted and said, "Well, somehow I won," and my initial thing was, I said, "I'm going to text you. I'm going to share what I texted him back." Because this is exactly like Dan, and it's exactly like me, I think. So he said, somehow I won this award. I don't know how. It's crazy. And I said, Mandis. And he said, now I just want to go home. Because he was in New York City.
That's completely on brand.
That's on brand so far. I said, Dan, I'm so sad for you that you cannot continue to moan and complain about how these things are rigged. That's my way of congratulating him. And he laughed, and we said, well done. And he said, now the pressure's on not to suck. And I said, nah, man, this is great. With a Marconi, you can suck like usual for years.
And get paid.
And get paid for it.
One thing I miss about the morning show is hearing Dan saying it. Johnny, did I shank that?
See, the biggest difference between listening to me, Ken, and listening to Dan is that I shank as many as he does, but I admit to none of them. I admit to nothing. It's always Bell's fault.
Well, that or you just totally ignore it so you don't draw attention to it at all.
I shanked that. I shanked that one, didn't I, Ken? Well, listen, in all seriousness, congratulations to Dan Mandis.
Yes,
congratulations to Ken Weaver. Congratulations to Johnny B. Congratulations to every person that is a part of the morning show. And obviously the tip of the spear is Dan Mandis. I mean, what a great honor, industry honor. And everybody just shower him because I know he hates it.
Yeah.
I know how much just force him to say you're welcome all morning long tomorrow morning by showering
if you
him
happen to see him in public, run up and give him a big bear hug.
He loves hugs.
Man, he does. Now, what's he going to – now, Ken, you know this. What he does is he pretends that he doesn't like him. He'll act like he doesn't care for him, but he really loves him. And those closest to him know that. So just give it – no matter how he reacts, just give him a big old hug and know that he's getting all warm and fuzzy inside.
That's right. That's right.
All right, it's time for the news. It's 31 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7. Congratulations, Dan. WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Not the worst case scenario, but Hurricane Milton doing significant damage, slamming into Florida as a Cat 3 storm last night, bringing floods, deadly tornadoes. Millions of Floridians without power, with floodwaters expected to rise in the coming days. Here's Governor DeSantis.
There may end up being more overall damage. There may not. I don't know. But definitely the surge did not reach Helene levels.
Again, more than 3 million Floridians without power, 635,000 accounts already restored. And speaking of Helene, officials are still recovering bodies in East Tennessee and North Carolina from flooding. TEMA confirming 17 deaths in East Tennessee and in North Carolina. Fox News says one family lost 11 loved ones in a mudslide near Fairview, a suburb of Asheville. There's another severe storm heading to Earth, but this one doesn't involve clouds, wind, or rain. Here's Alex Stone to explain.
Earth is under a severe geomagnetic storm watch today and tomorrow. NOAA has issued its warning after an outburst from the sun was detected earlier this week. A solar storm can disrupt power and radio signals. Electrical operators and space companies have been warned they could be impacted, and it could cause northern lights as far south as the Midwest and Northern California. This geomagnetic storm is expected to be less severe than one in May.
RFK widow Ethel Kennedy has died in Massachusetts after being hospitalized following a stroke last week. She was 96. Her family publicly fractured this year after RFK Jr., a controversial environmentalist, according to some, strayed from the family's liberal tradition and ran an aborted bid for the White House. He enthusiastically endorsed Republican former President Donald Trump. So far, we have not heard from RFK Jr. on the passing of his mother. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
When United Structural Systems comes to your home, you're not only getting problem solvers who are invested over the last 30 years in protecting the foundation of your home and prevent water from getting inside of it. You're also getting people that have satisfied over 25,000 customers in the past. That's over 25,000 referrals, over 25,000 families who have been saved the additional expense of having to deal with foundation or waterproofing issues within their home. They also do the polylevel lift concrete leveling system, which is just incredible. And I want you to, if you have any issues regarding the concrete, the foundation of your home, or if you smell musty or moldy odors in your home, we've been talking about water a lot over the last couple of weeks. It's time to call the best, called USS. Serving Middle Tennessee, let's get with it. This problem isn't going to take care of itself, friends. Let's call the experts. USS, they guarantee their best. Go to USSTN.com or call 615-488-7855, 488-7855 for USS. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Diane Canada is coming up. She is I think she lives in Tennessee. I'm going to find out. We're going to find out together. There's an event coming up later on this week, tomorrow, as a matter of fact, that I want to tell you about with Diane Canada. Many of you might recognize the name. I think she ran for Tennessee State House District a couple of years ago. Anyway, we'll meet her together in the 2 o'clock.
Is she allowed to live here with a name like that?
I think, well, I mean, if Chris Hand is.
Yeah, but his last name isn't a country.
I know, but he lives there. He lived there. He's from there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Hand's not a country?
No.
Yeah. His show starts at 9. You should listen. You should listen.
Afghanistan?
No, I don't know. I don't know where one would get the name Canada. Maybe you can ask her, Belle. You know?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know where. Well, hell, I mean, speaking of names. Oh, you now he gets off the mic, Weaver. I mean, Kay. And
I know where I got my name.
Where'd you get yours from, Ken?
My dad.
That's perfect. Mine too. I bought mine off the side of a cereal box. 40 after the hour. Speaking of names, I was about to segue. So right before we came on air, just to pull the curtain back, Belle said, "Hey, don't forget about the title of the show," because we title the show every day. You know, you can hear us. Yeah. You can see us on the Super Talk TV, and there's a title for the show. And I was segueing right to the title of the show, and then Craig called in, and he stymied our segue there. But Belle is back. Episode 669 on Super Talk TV is entitled, Belle?
I don't know if it is.
What? Right before we came, he said, "Don't forget about the title. Are we doing the title next?" I said, "We're doing the title." He said, "Okay."
That's a real long title.
Cameron gave me this one. He inspired
He's
it.
giggling.
Matt Murphy.
He thinks he's funny.
Matt Murphy announces all new hurricanes will be controlled and directed at D.C.
As in Washington, D.C.?
Of course.
Well, that's good. So apparently Cameron fell into the trap of suggesting that the government can't control the weather patterns of the United States of America, and that.
So if we can do that, then we're gonna throw them at D.C.
Remember when we did that the other day?
Yes.
And how that turned out?
Yeah, it was funny.
It's fun. It's fun to talk about. So yeah, it is being suggested that all of this is being controlled by the government of the United States. If that's the case, why are they doing such a poor job in response to it?
If that's the case, why are we saying global warming is a thing?
Well, because they want to have it both ways,
right,
Bell. Come on,
exactly.
man. You got to think beyond, 3D chess. We got to go into 4D and 5D and 6D chess, right? So the same Democrats that tell us that global warming is causing these types of things are controlling the very weather that they suggest is an uncontrollable result of fossil fuel consumption across the globe.
Just so they can get the Green New Deal passed.
Just so they can get the Green New Deal passed and waste trillions and trillions of dollars. 42 after the hour. So there you go. It's episode 669 of our proceedings today on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Gary's been holding in Greenbrier with a discussion about FEMA. And Gary, I'm going to get to you. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me on.
Of course.
Again.
Of course.
Listen, I had some disturbing information I got today. I was at a church meeting this morning, and before we finished, we were praying for the people in North Carolina and East Tennessee. I'm a little out of breath because I had to run from the kitchen to the phone. But anyway, one young lady, she's in her 30s, has several children. She says, "My father has an airplane, and he's been flying missions to bring supplies to North Carolina."
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, they land at these small airfields. I didn't ask her what kind of plane. I fly Cessnas, but...
I missed it, Gary. Who was this again that's telling me the story?
A lady in my church meeting this morning.
So a lady in your church meeting but she was telling you about who?
Her father.
Okay, so all right.
Owns an airplane, and he's flying like missionary relief supplies. And when they land, they're having to run a ground smuggling operation to get the supplies to the people because FEMA is taking supplies and distributing.
Gary, I can't find any evidence that FEMA is confiscating donated supplies, and I went down a rabbit hole yesterday evening that lasted about 3 hours. Now, FEMA is a ridiculous waste of money. I am on record as saying that I do not believe that we need a federal emergency management agency, that the states could do it themselves. It is an ineffective operation, and it has failed the people of North Carolina, East Tennessee, and beyond. At the same time, I have looked for evidence that FEMA is confiscating goods or supplies, and I cannot find. I can find plenty of examples of churches that have supplies, of community groups and community centers that have supplies in North Carolina, that have supplies in East Tennessee. I can find no evidence that the government of the United States of America is actively taking. Now, if that evidence exists, I'm willing to listen. I'm not shutting any conversation down, and I would never shut conversations down. I'm just telling you that I've heard this rumor repeatedly, and it's always a friend of a friend of a friend. It's never a direct eyewitness report, and I can find no evidence that it's happening.
Well, what I can do is ask her to have her dad call you.
Please. I would love. I mean, if I'm the one,
do that.
Gary, let me tell you, I would love, if that is going on, I would love to be the one to break that story wide open. And so I am willing to receive that information. Just find me the witness to the events. And because we got told early on, and thank you, Gary, for the call. Just call me back with the person with the direct. Now, I'm not being mean-spirited. I'm not being cold. I'm willing to hear it. I just, in events like these, there are always rumors. We were told, I'm trying to remember which hurricane it was, that we were told that there were 500 people trapped in a building and they were all killed. They all drowned. It was years ago. I was still in Birmingham. I think it was maybe Michael, where we were told on the coast of Panama City that there were people that were congregating for some community activity and they all drowned, and it turned out not to be true. So there's always rumor, there's always speculation, there's always innuendo, there's always, sadly, fabrications. Gary, I'm not trying to shut you down, but I'm telling you that I've heard, now I can't count them on both hands and both feet, the number of times that I've been told that, well, my sister's brother's cousin said that this was happening. And I feel like I could find some corroboration. Now, I'll tell you what I did see. I saw Black Hawk helicopters buzzing the landing zone in an area in North Carolina inexplicably, and I don't know what the hell they were doing. I mean, that's abject inefficiency or out-and-out meanness. Trying to blow away some of the community goods. I saw that. I've seen that video. That's real. And I can't explain it other than it was either incompetence or on purpose, and either way, it's bad. Bad. And it was like a Black Hawk helicopter. I've seen that. I've seen video after video of individuals documenting the devastation. I've seen a video. I have not seen a video out of Burnsville, and I was looking for that last night. I've seen video out of Chimney Rock. I've seen video out of Asheville. I've seen video out of Fairview, where individuals are going into these areas. They're being allowed into these areas, and they're documenting what happened there. For example, there was a rumor going around several days ago about Chimney Rock, where Chimney Rock was the first Burnsville, meaning there is a rumor online that there are hundreds of bodies that are being stacked up and stored by the federal government for reasons that are not really explained. And initially that was reportedly in Chimney Rock. Well, there have been videos taken of Chimney Rock, multiple ones. And I saw one last two nights ago when I went down this rabbit hole, trying to separate fact from fiction. And this guy walked in. He was on a gator for a while, or a mule for a while, and then he walked in for about a mile and a half until he got to the area. He was met with a couple of FEMA folk and some other officials, local officials. The only thing they told him is he couldn't go down a certain road because they were trying to get the dirt and debris out of the road, and they wanted to keep him away from the earth-moving equipment. But otherwise, he talked to a number of people there, and he found no stacks of bodies or anything like that. Yesterday, we had a nurse on, or I think it was a nurse. Wasn't she a nurse? Or she was the friend of a nurse? The one that was talking about Burnsville and the 300 bodies?
I think she was a nurse. I think you're correct.
Yeah, and we were told that there were, so the same thing. There's 300 bodies, and there's another 600. Look, I am compelled by one thing to try to separate all of this, and that is my heart and my desire to want to tell the truth to you and to get to the truth of what's going on. Nothing that I say to suggest that there's no 300 bodies stacked up is to suggest that this isn't awful. It's awful. It's horrible. And they're still finding people. I mean, I think there was a story Ken sent me about Fairview, North Carolina, where they found a family of 11 people dead. They had been overwhelmed by a mudslide, and they have just recovered those bodies. This death toll is going to go up, and we're going to count every single person, and we're going to find out every single life that has been lost, and we're going to find out their names. I understand how we fear the worst, and I understand that we don't trust our government, but there's no reason to propagate unfounded rumor. I'm willing to listen to facts, and I'm willing to listen to evidence, and I'm willing to view evidence, and I'm willing to. But I've just seen no evidence.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is we have enough provable things that exist to criticize government over when it comes to inefficiency and ineffectiveness, that you don't need to go off the deep end trying to find reasons. You got legit excuses to complain about the government, and you need to stick with what we can show as provable.
And I am absolutely here for it. I am here for any of your stories, any of your eyewitness accounts, any of your detailed conversations that you've had with individuals. I'm not shutting any of that down, but I don't want to enter an arena where we're throwing stuff out on the radio that just isn't true. Sally writes in and said, I heard a report about that Black Hawk helicopter. They were trying to land at that distribution site and realized they couldn't, so they called it off. The crew was suspended. I thought I heard that from Joan Jones this morning, but I might have heard it somewhere else. Well, that would make sense.
They are suspended. They're under investigation.
Okay, so this was a group. They wanted to land, and they didn't realize that they were screwing things up on the ground, and they were turning up tents, and they were destroying distributed goods, and so they flew off. And so they buzzed the landing site way too low, I guess, is what happened there.
That's
that makes
what
sense.
It looks like.
That makes sense. All right, 615-737-9986. It's 12:52. We continued the conversation in just a moment. We'll turn our attention to the presidential election. It does not look good for Kamala Harris, but I don't want to rest on our laurels 26 days out. You guys know where my heart is. You know where I believe America would be best positioned, what president I want in the White House. But it is a long way from now until December 5th. Plus, another Dan appeared in our lives over the last 24 hours. They called him Lieutenant Dan. I don't know if you've heard about Lieutenant Dan. I was fully prepared to tell you that Lieutenant Dan would be dead today. And he's not dead today.
Nope.
And if you've not heard this story, it's
good.
It is good. It's incredible. And we'll tell you next on Super Talk. You know, if you watch me on the good old Super Talk TV, that's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, that is brought to you by our friends at US Pest. JK, Erica, and the rest of the crew over at US Pest say hi-de-ho, and thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and thank you for calling US Pest when you are in need. Schedule a free pest inspection right now. Now, I understand you're thinking, well, Murphy, the summertime's over. the mosquitoes are all dying off and going straight back to hell. So why would I need a pest control company? Well, man, the fall season is spider season, right? That's what I call it. You see all these spider webs, not just because of Halloween. You see the spider webs, and they're laying babies, and those things are coming into your house. Fall season is the time where pests that have been outside, like mice and other types of critters, they're trying to get inside. They want to run roughshod in your basement, your crawl space, and all the other places inside your walls. You need to stop that with U.S. Pest. Protection begins with U.S. Pest. So give them a call today at 615-590-1260, 615-590-1260, or go online to uspest.com.
1 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Right now, we've got some debris blocking the way. It's 40 westbound right before Elm Hill Pike, the overpass there. The left two lanes are blocked by this debris. Michelle Franson with our Hurricane Milton update.
Widespread damage across Florida after Hurricane Milton barreled across the state. Governor Ron DeSantis and President Biden spoke earlier. More federal aid is on the way, and FEMA is on the ground to assess the needs.
We're looking at damaged hospitals.
FEMA Regional Administrator Willie Nunn says the full extent of the damage will become clear over time. Search and rescue teams coordinated by FEMA will go house to house. But when it comes to the immediate response,
the state is always in the lead.
Nunn says despite concerns about the disaster relief fund running low, for now,
we are fully funded.
Nunn says it's important to disregard online rumors. He insists FEMA will provide assistance as it has in the past.
We have the funds to do that.
Stephen Portnoy, ABC News.
DeSantis says water rescues are still underway across the state from coastal and inland flooding, and tornadoes on Florida's east coast blamed for at least 4 deaths. That death toll could rise.
Officials still recovering bodies in East Tennessee and North Carolina from Hurricane Helene. TEMA confirming 17 deaths now in East Tennessee. And we learned today about a family that lost 11 loved ones in North Carolina. Fox News reporting this family lived in homes next to each other on a mountain slide. That is, they were wiped out by a mudslide. There's another severe storm heading to Earth. This one doesn't involve clouds, wind, or rain, as Alex Stone explains.
Earth is under a severe geomagnetic storm watch today and tomorrow. NOAA has issued its warning after an outburst from the sun was detected earlier this week. A solar storm can disrupt power and radio signals. Electrical operators and space companies have been warned they could be impacted, and it could cause northern lights as far south as the Midwest and Northern California. This geomagnetic storm is expected to be less severe than one in May.
258,000. That's how many Americans filed for unemployment benefits last week. That's the highest number in a year. Some say it's a sign of a weakening job market. Others say it's a temporary drop due to Hurricane Helene, which came ashore 2 weeks ago. Labor Department says claims will likely continue to be elevated across the Southeast in the coming weeks because of Hurricane Milton, too. And a major court case could decide what happens to more than 3.5 million children of illegal immigrants in this country.
Those dreamers have remained in the U.S. for years as courts debated their fate. Now Republican states are demanding the DACA program protecting them and the children sent back to countries from where they arrived as infants. New Orleans' Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals will decide if it should overturn a lower court's decision saying those children should lose their protection. That case could land in the Supreme Court no matter what happens.
As Andy Field reporting and the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
When it comes to your safety, your personal safety, I encourage you to exercise your Second Amendment rights. And when it comes to that, I encourage you to get over to Mark at the Safe House to find out what type of gun safe is right for you. They've got all shapes and all sizes at the Safe House. I've been there. I broadcast from there. I've been amongst the safes and the vault doors. It's incredible. It's impressive. I mean, over 200 safes right there in the showroom, in the warehouse floor. And they have another warehouse off-site where they have another almost 400 safes on the regular in stock. That's right. So why so many safes? Because Mark wants to make sure that he has something right for you. Whether it's a size specification, a fire rating specification, whether it's a style or a particular brand like Browning, Fort Knox, Champion, Superior, and the rest, they have it in stock at the Safe House. No waiting for delivery. And when you do have delivery of your safe from the Safe House, their delivery crew brings the safe to your home. You don't have to depend on a third party. Who knows where those folks are from? Don't let somebody from another country deliver your safe that the person that you bought it from doesn't know from Adam's House Cat. Get it delivered from Mark and the Safe House. Go by and see them on 4th Avenue South across from City Cemetery, or go online to NashvilleSafehouse.com. Our numbered dose of the Matt Murphy Radio Show begins right now. Super Talk 99.7 WTM. I'm Matt Murphy. There's Ken Weaver in the newsroom gathering headlines as we speak, already getting ready for another award-winning newscast at 1:30 this afternoon or thereabouts. Belle Kay's behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. Thank you for being with us. Just finishing up the Libertarian Lunchtime Hour. We're going to get into politics in just a moment. So Hurricane Milton has come and gone. The aftermath is, I mean, it's a lot of property damage, a lot of devastation, and yes, some death included. And obviously, we're covering all of that. We're covering still 2 weeks later the aftermath of Hurricane Helene that still is devastating. I mean, it's just it destroys me to see some of the property devastation and obviously the loss of life. And we're still uncovering. I mean, I'm sad to say uncovering dead bodies. It is a fact. And we're also covering the presidential election that's coming up in just 26 days. I mean, it's going on right now, but it's coming up in just 26 days. By the way, before I get too far away from it, have you guys been in the, we've got 2 bathrooms here on the second floor of the palatial studios of Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You can see that on Super Talk TV. I mean, this thing's fancy. So we would call it's the regular bathroom and the executive suite bathroom, right?
Or the ADA bathroom.
Okay, well, sure. I mean, yeah, sure.
One of them has a table that you could put Southern Living on if you needed something to read.
Is it just me, man? Or does the, as Belle would call it, the ADA compliant bathroom, it reminds me, have y'all ever seen that movie Saw?
I can't watch
the
that,
original?
man.
Yeah, the original one.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's too scary.
It is. It's a frightening thing. And the guys wake up and they're in the bathroom and one of the guys is chained to the edge. So I went in just a minute ago while Kim was doing the newscast to take care of my business. And the light was the light wouldn't quite come on. So it was zzz, 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 zzz. And I'm like, I'm in this movie. I'm in the movie Saw. Some dude's going to jump out in a second and handcuff me to the handicap railing.
Criticize your hand washing technique.
And yeah, and tell me that I got to find the key, otherwise I got to cut my leg off or something. It is it's a frightening scene in there, and it smells like that bathroom seems to smell too. Mm. Not that I'm not complaining though. Some people have to go to the bathroom outside.
That's a good point.
I'm not grumping. Real quick while we're funning, Lieutenant Dan. Ken Weaver, have you investigated Lieutenant Dan at all?
No, I've just seen the
stories. Apparently, Lieutenant Dan has had, and that's what everybody's calling him. His real name is Patrick something or another. Everybody's calling him Lieutenant Dan because he's only got one leg, and he decided that he was going to take on a hurricane on a boat.
Yeah,
much like Lieutenant Dan did in the movie Forrest Gump. So apparently, Lieutenant Dan has had not one, not two, but 14 brushes with the law. He is kind of a known entity down in Florida, so I would urge you not to give any money to his GoFundMe, though he's raised like $25,000.
Of course.
Of course he has, because that's the world we live in. But he got a little notoriety over the last 24 hours because he was on a little sailboat down in one of the marinas at Tampa Bay. And they're like, well, you've got to get out of here. And he's like, no, I'm going to ride this thing out on the sailboat. And everyone around him said, well, you're going to die. And he goes, no, it's all good. When the tide goes up, the boat goes up. I'm good. Which is very simple, but, truthful logic, I guess. So he was going to ride the thing out. And, you know what? America is a place where you have every right in the world to be stupid if you want to, so long as you're not putting other people in harm's way. And he was told, look, we're not coming back for you. If you stay here, you're on your own. And he said, I'm staying here. I don't care if the winds are 150 miles an hour or not. I'm staying right here on my sailboat. And he battened down the hatches, and he stayed on the sailboat. At one point, the mayor of Tampa claimed that first responders had collected him and gotten him to a shelter. And so a news reporter went out after. So the mayor of Tampa said, no, we got him. We went and we got him, and he's in a shelter now. And so the news reporters went back out to his sailboat and kind of knocked on the sailboat, and he goes, hello? I mean, he was there. He was like, no, I'm not in a shelter. I'm right here. So the mayor of Tampa's just lying.
Just bald-faced lie.
Just lie. Well, I mean, I guess I'm just lying. I mean, I guess she's trying to prevent people from being like Lieutenant Dan. So last night I'm watching this, and I told Erica, I said, you see that guy right there? We're watching a report. And she said, yeah. I said, he's going to be dead tomorrow. Because it's a small sailboat.
It's a little bitty boat.
And, but lo and behold, this morning, he's still there, man. I don't know how.
I said, are you all right? And he said, I'm okay.
I'm good. He said,
I'm good.
He said it was pretty rough, and then I had to point the sailboat in a different direction, and then it was okay. I slept like a baby.
Dude, what?
Slept like a baby. Yeah, he slept like a baby. He woke up every 20 minutes crying.
Exactly.
That's how he slept.
Exactly. I would have been.
I mean, Lieutenant Dan. But the point of the story, the punchline of the story is don't give this guy any money, because he apparently took his sailboat and moved it from a safer location to Tampa Bay specifically to ride out the storm for whatever reason. I mean, I guess you could call
on purpose.
Yes, I mean and then he simultaneously set up a GoFundMe page. So
people are giving it to him.
Oh, he's got like over $25,000, Ken.
What are we doing, Murphy?
What are we doing with our lives?
Dude.
Why are we not on a sailboat right now? Have you ever been on a sailboat, Ken?
No, not a sailboat.
I have. When I lived in Middletown, Connecticut, and met a guy who had a 30-foot sailboat and asked me if I wanted to sail around Long Island to see the Statue of Liberty. And I said, yeah, great. And I thought, oh, this will be a couple hours. There's a 3-hour tour, a pleasure cruise. It was 9 hours of absolute hell. I didn't know. I mean, this is a beautiful day.
Yeah.
And it's choppy and I don't get seasick, but I'm getting seasick. And he's working my butt off. I'm like his first mate.
Yeah.
And he's like, go, tie that. He's using all this terminology that I don't know. Tie that jib. Hoist to that mainsail. Like, what the hell are you, dude? I thought I would be drinking Budweiser on this thing and just enjoying myself.
You didn't know you were with Captain Quint.
Well, it was mutiny on that bounty, I'll tell you, because I'm like, listen.
Hoopa!
If Hoopa drives the boat, Chief. You got city hands, Mr. Hoopa. But that's what he said to me, basically. You got city hands, Mr. Murphy. Been counting money all your life. Like, look, I literally, because like my then wife and his girlfriend was on the boat too. And at one point I had to say, look, I'm happy to help. I didn't know I was going to be your first mate, and I don't know what to do.
Right.
You just have to tell me what to do.
I don't know what the starboard is. Is that what it's called? The starboard? Or
it's there's the bow and the stern. And
the stern.
And I mean,
that.
All I know is you're yelling pretty stern, sir. Might want to calm your tone down. Telling me to get on the bow.
Good, sir.
Man overboard. Anyway. Did I mention he lived on the boat? This dude lived on the boat, 30-foot boat.
Kind of like
Lieutenant Dan. I mean, hell, for all I know, they're the same person. For all I know, the guy that made me do the boat and Lieutenant Dan. Anyway, Lieutenant Dan's going to be all right. But we would not advise that you attempt to ride out a Category 3 hurricane.
No.
But he unscathed, Tampa Mayor Jane Castor claimed that Tampa police had saved Lieutenant Dan during a press conference yesterday afternoon. He's been rescued and is now in a shelter. All that turned out to be a big fat lie. Lieutenant Dan's real name is Joseph Malinowski. He was spotted on his small sailboat docked in Tampa Bay just moments later, rode out the storm, survived, missing a leg. Don't know why.
He's just a little fella, too.
Oh, man, he's teeny.
He looks like he weighs maybe 110 pounds.
I don't think he eats much.
No.
I don't think he eats much. And I don't want to cast aspersions or jump to conclusions, but based on the tooth situation, I think I know why he doesn't eat that much. You know what I'm saying?
This photo, he's wearing a T-shirt that says Death Row Records.
Well, at least he's wearing a shirt. The one I saw, he wasn't wearing. Can you imagine that? The big news crew, camera, news reporter. Hey, sir, would you want to put a shirt on for the interview?
Put a shirt on.
No, I'm good.
Nah.
No, I'm all right. That's
that?
cool. You want to look at my nub? Rub it for luck.
Wait, sir, you okay? I'm fine.
I'm good. Sir, you're currently on a 20-foot schooner, sailboat, and we don't think I'm good. There's a Category 3 hurricane descending on us with 130. I'm fine. You see but what I love is, and if you watch some of this, just once again, don't give him any money. But if you watch some of this, he's like, no, you got to. He's like explaining it. No, you understand something. See, I'm on a boat.
Yeah.
And if the water goes up, the boat goes up because the boat floats. So I'm all good. And you're like, well, what happens if it turns over? Nah, it's all good. It's fine. It won't turn over. Don't worry about it. Did I mention I only have the one leg? Golly, most. So we live in a weird. The 21st century has not turned out the way that I thought it would.
No.
Eric, let's get to you in Nashville. What's up, Eric? How are you?
I'm okay, sir. Hold on a second. Stand by.
Wow.
Man, Eric.
That's Nashville's finest.
They coming for you? Are they coming for you, Eric?
No, sir, not me.
Okay,
I wanted to let you know Western Journal posted an update on that helicopter, and I believe one of your other listeners had already covered that. It was North Carolina National Guard. I don't know why there were no markings on the chopper because I watched the video that you did, and they were attempting to deliver generators but to the wrong site. The crew was grounded, and the matter's under investigation. But it wasn't done out of malice. It was just like, hey, is this where we're supposed to drop generators off? And I guess it was poor crew coordination.
Yeah.
But the Western Journal's been a pretty reliable source of information on what's going on the ground. Dr. Phil has been on the ground praising Samaritan's Purse and other civic groups doing the job that FEMA should be doing and isn't.
Well, that's right. Well, and it's by its very nature, Eric, and what I try to remind people is it's the nature of FEMA. It is not the individuals on the ground that are attempting to do harm to you. And frankly, outside of people in the upper echelons of the administration, which I don't think they know what the hell they're doing, I don't fault FEMA for being FEMA. FEMA, by its very existence, is not prepared to act as swiftly as sometimes we need action to happen. It is by its very nature regulatory, which in times of crisis and in times of immediate need, we need to put that red tape aside and get directly to the source of the problem and eliminate the problem or give help to those who need it. By their very nature, they cannot do that. And so we need to take a strong look at resetting the way that we do these things. We have come to, over the last 25 years, rely far too much on the federal government when it comes to, all FEMA's good for is a check, and that check is balanced against the existence of the United States of America. And by that, I mean that check just adds to our trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. And I understand that people have immediate needs. But I also understand that there are community members, there are church groups, there are neighbors, there are charitable organizations that are ready and willing and able. The left wants us to rely on one source for all of this. One. And that's them. That's the federal government. And I say to you, get out of the way and let the neighbors help their neighbors. Now, do we need machinery and all of these things? Absolutely. Things that the state itself can provide. Look at the way that Ron DeSantis is taking care of his business in Florida. I'm not casting aspersions in North Carolina. It's a completely different situation. The topography is completely different. They were unprepared for this level of calamity involving flooding, mudslides, and rain, and rivers overflowing their banks. Nobody could have been prepared for it. I think Bill Lee said it right the other day. A reporter asked Bill Lee, why weren't we better prepared for this? And he said, how do you prepare for something that's never happened? 615-737-9986. If you'd like to get involved in the show, we'll turn our attention to politics in just a moment. 26 days out, and the Democrats are nervous, and that's good for the United States of America. It's 21 after the hour on Super Talk. The Dr. Gill's Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief wants to see you. Friends, have you been over to the Dr. Gill Center yet? Do you feel pain in your back or your neck or your knees or your hip or your elbow or anywhere? Anywhere that it hurts, the Dr. Gill Center can help you. So many people consider them a chiropractic center, and of course they are. I mean, Dr. Gill started the Chiropractic Care Center 30-plus years ago, brought spinal decompression technology to Middle Tennessee, and now he continues to bring industry-defining equipment like their Class 5 laser system, their red light therapy, their spinal decompression, I mentioned that, their E-stim therapy, all designed to attack inflammation in the body, reduce pain, reduce swelling, and accelerate healing. That's what it's all about, friends. So regardless of where the pain is or what your pain levels might be, the Dr. Gill Center can help. And I speak not only as a spokesperson for the Dr. Gill Center, I'm a client of Dr. Gill's. Dr. Gill, Dr. V, Dr. Dominic, Dr. Wendy, the rest of the team, they're ready to see you. Why not make that appointment? Let's get pain-free. Let's stop taking pills. It is possible with the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. Call them today at 615-882-4838. 882-4838. I know you'll be glad you did. It's the Dr. Gill Center in Franklin.
An East Tennessee sheriff putting out a request for food donations. He said it is urgent, and I'll go into detail for you at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Looking forward to that. That's Ken Weaver back in the newsroom. Matt Murphy in your studio. It is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver, I spent the entire commercial break going over nautical terms. You know, I passed my motorboating test in Alabama. Do they require one of those in Tennessee? Does anybody know? Do you know, Ken?
I have no idea, Brother
Like
Murphy.
in order to operate like a pontoon boat out on Percy Priest, would I need a boating license? I would think that I would.
About that.
I passed my boating license my vessel license examination in Alabama. And I'm telling you, I remember some of these terms. I don't know what they mean, but I remember some of these terms. I've been looking them up. You ready?
Let's hear it, brother.
All right. Stern. That's not being real mean. That's not what we do on the Matt Murphy Show. That is a direction on a boat.
That's the stern.
That's the back
stern.
end.
That is the what is the front of the boat, Bell?
The bow.
Man, Bell, that's 2 for 2, buddy. All right, you want to take the test? What is the bilge?
The bilge.
That's the area that collects water to be pumped out of the boat.
It is Bell.
Way to go, Brother Bilal.
The bilge is the lowest section inside a boat's hull where water collects. Wow. How about that? All right, let's just keep going, Bell. The keel.
That is the part of the boat under the water that keeps it steady.
It is the body or shell of a boat, including the bow and the stern. I'm going to give you credit for that one too. Where were you in the Navy, Bell?
I watched a lot of Gilligan's Island.
Wow. You got aft and hull. You got the port. You got a head, starboard, a stern.
Yeah, starboard. I got that one.
That's right side of the boat.
Sally writes in and says, Ken Weaver.
Yes, sir. I'm in, ma'am.
The starboard is what you get when you're looking at the stars and should be tying the jib to the main sail. You get starboard. See what you did there? Starboard. Weaver got starboard. I see what you did, Sally. I like that. All right, so Leslie is going to talk about hurricane relief in just a moment. We'll get back to that. I've got to talk to you about the presidential election as well. I mean, the ineffectiveness and inefficiency of the federal government is on full display in the midst of seeing neighbors helping neighbors and the local communities come together that need assistance, whether it be from Helene or from Milton. We're watching what the federal government cannot do in real time, things that they claim they can and they cannot. And by my pointing that out, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they have accused me of misinformation. Because it is suggested by them that any suggestion that there has been inefficiency in government in this entire operation is somehow hurting people, causing danger. That's their suggestion. So understand this, and I said it at the beginning of the show, and it bears repeating, that if you recognize, and the government wants you to know this, that if you've lost trust in the government through your recognition that the government is failing you, this is not the fault of the government. It's your fault for recognizing it. And any belief otherwise is misinformation. And misinformation must be punished. Do you not remember? I can pull the clip. Tim Walz said this the other day, and the mainstream media gave him a complete pass. He said, we need to start punishing misinformation and hate speech. They always include hate speech because it sounds really good. Because you say hate speech, and people go, well, nobody wants hate speech, so yeah, we should eliminate hate speech. The last thing you want the government of the United States of America to do is to tell you what is and is not hate speech and what you can and cannot say publicly or privately or otherwise, including misinformation. Why don't you leave that to us, government? Because the last thing you should want to do is to give the government the ability to tell you what is misinformation and what is not information. Because I promise you, the first thing that's going to stop criticism of the government. Aren't we witnessing that in real time? Right? So simultaneously, think about this. This is very serious. Simultaneously, they're telling you misinformation needs to be punished. Hillary Clinton said it. Tim Walz candidate for vice president said it, that we need to punish those that are purposefully putting out misinformation. And now we're being told that criticism of the government is misinformation. Just let's start putting the dots together, friends. And eventually it doesn't take a rocket scientist, what do they say, a brain scientist or a rocket surgeon to figure it out. It is 30 after the hour on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Hurricane Milton slamming the west coast of Florida as a Cat 3 storm overnight. Flooding, powerful winds, tornadoes. 5 people confirmed dead from a twister in St. Lucie County. Governor Ron DeSantis in Fort Pierce today.
Unfortunately, we have the fatalities from this tornado here. We don't have confirmed reports of other fatalities throughout the rest of the state, but we may as the day goes on.
Rescues going on in the county. DeSantis saying they may continue due to inland flooding. Meanwhile, officials are still recovering bodies from Hurricane Helene in East Tennessee and North Carolina. TEMA confirms 17 deaths in East Tennessee now. And in North Carolina, we've learned through Fox News about 11 family members swept away in a mudslide in the Asheville suburb of Fairview. TD Bank agreeing to pay about $3 billion in fines for breaking federal money laundering laws. Bank regulators also imposing a cap on the Canadian bank's ability to take on new U.S. deposits. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland today saying by making its services convenient for criminals, TD Bank became one itself.
Today, TD Bank pled guilty to multiple felonies, including conspiring to violate the Bank Secrecy Act and commit money laundering.
TD Bank's a subsidiary of the Toronto Dominion Bank, has over 1,100 locations in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, Metro D.C., the Carolinas, and Florida. The bank's headquarters are in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And the UN peacekeeping force based in southern Lebanon, known as UNIFIL, has accused the IDF of firing on 3 of its bases and injuring 2 of its peacekeepers. It says that the Israeli tank fired at an observation tower at the peacekeepers' headquarters, and that directly hit the tower, knocked 2 of the peacekeepers from it. It says they were hospitalized, but fortunately not seriously wounded. Have not heard from Israel on this claim. And that is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Man, I think I'm right when I say the Glock store has sent me a photograph of this custom-made Glock that they're giving away for their spooky shoot house, their spook shoot house, all October long, and it is cool. It is an October special. If this is the one, and it's got to be, I mean, they sent me a picture of it. It is a customized Glock, $1,000 Glock. It's got pumpkins on it. It's orange and black. It is dressed out for Halloween, and it is ready for you. And all you have to do to win is blast zombies and monsters. $30 for 15 minutes. You get 20 rounds. Gun rental is included at the Glock store. And they've shown me a video. They've got these great targets up that are, zombies and spooks and ghosts and whatnot. And if you're the best shot, they're competing all month long, and the best shot will win this custom Glock. It is right there at the Glock store. This is a lot of fun, and I invite you to swing by. As a matter of fact, they're extending hours Friday and Saturday to 7 o'clock at night. Go to shoot270.com or glockstore.com for more information. And when you stop by, when you aim to please and try to win that customized Halloween Glock, tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only Glock store. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy, until 3. Alongside Kid and Weaver with the news, Bell K's behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as possible. We appreciate you being out there as well. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're thankful for it. Coming up in the 2 o'clock hour, Diane Canada, who will be in studio with us to talk about an event that's coming up later on this week. Also, where we are in the United States of America, particularly with regard to the presidential election coming up in 26 days. Well, it's happening right now. I say that, and I'm trying to get out of saying that, because I need to reset my mindset, and I think we all need to reset our mind that the election is happening now. We need to encourage people that are voting early to vote properly. And people are voting right now. I would not have it that way were I king of the world or king of America. I would not have a vote that extends beyond really 3 days. I could tell you a system by which we have a 72-hour window to vote that I would believe in. Paper ballots, by the way. But this is a mess, which, as Donald J. Trump says often, requires us to win elections in a fashion by which they cannot rig it. You have to win by so much that it gives no one an ability to overcome it through shenanigans. The best way that I can put that. If you want to know the state of affairs with the presidential race, then I think we should listen to Democrats. Listen to the political left. Hell, listen to the vice presidential candidate on the side of the political left. Tim Walz was asked about, they're finally getting out and doing some impromptu questions and answers. And Tim Walz was asked about the issue of immigration and how that assists his candidate, Kamala Harris.
Well, I think voters focusing on immigration helps, because I think what they've seen is that we're leaning into it. We're talking about what the solution is. And again, I think these folks saw it. Donald Trump wasn't doing anything about it.
I paused that for effect. I've been saying for a while now, the basic campaign strategy on the part of the Democrat Party is to trust that there are enough stupid people that are willing to vote for them, that will believe anything that comes out of their mouths. For better or worse, does anyone in America that's paying attention believe that Donald Trump wasn't doing something about immigration? You might disagree with it. You might agree with open border policy. You might disagree with his policy to remain in Mexico. You might disagree with the border wall and the construction of said same. You might have agreed with the Democrats that tried to stymie him at every step along the way. You might value the issues involving Mexican immigrants or Venezuelan immigrants or Guatemalan immigrants or Haitian immigrants. You might put more importance in their health and well-being than the health and well-being of the United States of America. But even you will not suggest that Donald Trump wasn't doing something. Yet this schmuck.
Well, I think voters focusing on immigration helps, because I think what they've seen is that we're leaning into it. We're talking about what the solution is. And again, I think these folks saw it. Donald Trump wasn't doing anything about it. He certainly didn't build his wall. He didn't have Mexico pay for it.
By the way, Donald Trump did everything in his power to build the wall, to include he was stymied for a year and a half because of the Democrats in Washington, D.C. He could not get the funding for the wall, and he eventually maneuvered money around the Congress of the United States of America to fund border wall security. Border wall that was working. These, almost said another J word, jokers. I'm trying to clean it up, Bell. I really am. I'm trying to be good. I know, people get mad at me.
You really are. You don't want to distract from the point with the
That's
language.
Right. I am a potty mouth, and I admit it. But these jokers, they tried to stop him every step of the way. And then when they got power, they dismantled Wall. They sold Wall for pennies on the dollar. And he says, he wasn't doing anything
for it. And what you're hearing from all the experts, if they're talking to the folks who know what'll make a difference here, you see it, the mayors down here know this, that, look, we need to pass this. We need to put something in. Well, I think
we need to pass this for what? Because there's an actual problem. There apparently is an actual problem now that didn't exist before Kamala Harris and Joe Biden needed to run for re-election. And then finally there's this.
One of the things I hear often from voters as they go around is our economy stinks. I know you hear it, and I asked Jay Pritzker about it a week ago, and he said the message isn't getting through. Does your campaign need to change the message on the economy to reach the voters you need?
I think we just keep getting at them. Look, folks know if prices go up, housing becomes more expensive. And I've talked about this. It doesn't spending time on that Donald Trump left a mess when he left. They want to know what we're doing right now. And I think where Kamala Harris is talking about making housing more affordable.
There was an advertisement that I saw the other night. Kamala Harris ad. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this method. She said that she's going to stop high rental prices by I assume she means that she wants a federal cap on rental prices. So she not only wants to initiate price controls for food, which has never worked and never will work in a free market economy. She now wants to put price caps on rental agreements. So she wants to prevent the natural contract between the rentor and the rentee by inserting government into that system. Anybody think that's going to end well? Price controls? How well have price controls done in New York City? They have rent control in New York City.
San Francisco's an even better example.
San Francisco has rent controls, Bell. Very good example. Oh, there are major metropolitan areas that have rent controls. And has that worked?
It's worked to make it more expensive.
Yeah, it works to make it more expensive. Funny how that happens. Leslie is next in the borough. Leslie, thank you for your call. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. You still there?
I'm here, brother.
All right. Hey, I just want to talk about the first responder stuff and kind of give a first-hand a little bit of knowledge about how this stuff works, because some of them getting grief about can't getting in, this and that and everything. I was in the fire service for well over 20 years as a volunteer, and what it is, man, sometimes, yes, the good old boys and your neighbors, yes, that's your best option. It is. But from the department standpoint, there's so much liability. If you let somebody go in and do something that's kind of sketchy and they end up getting hurt or whatever, that person might not sue you, but the family can. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a prime example. One time we had a little minor flood down here in Middle Tennessee. And by the way, welcome to Middle Tennessee. And
well, thank you.
We love having you here. But being on the fire department, my brother brought my truck out one time when I was on calls and stuff, and we was pulling people out left and right. Well, the higher-ups got word of what we was doing, and they didn't particularly care for it because he had my truck and my winch in the bed, and we was going over there winching trucks out of the creek and rivers and stuff before they got floated away. And the higher-ups said, we can't be doing that. We got to get a record. I'm like, why? My truck's sitting right here. My truck is not going to get stuck. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
If something yanks it, takes it away, it's all good. They're like, no. So, yeah, they sent him home packing.
I mean, red tape and bureaucratic nonsense. I mean, I understand that it's not perfect, but it's good, and these idiots want to make the perfect the enemy of the good. It's sad, but true.
Right. I just want to say that crew up through there, and I wish to God I could be there, but I can't. But, yeah, I mean, we can take four-wheelers, we'll pack them on mules, whatever we got to do to get supplies to them. But if they would just stay out of the way and let people do what they need to do.
Well, and do what they can do. I mean, if the federal government wants to come in and be an asset, thank you, Leslie, for the call, then fine. I mean, if you want to move earth and get roads back open and bring civil engineers down to figure out how to solve some problems, I'm not against that. I'm not against Americans helping Americans. But do not stand in the way. Don't act as an impediment. And we're seeing that in some areas, sadly. JD is next in the borough as well. Hey, JD.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing well.
Right on. It's great to hear y'all guys. I love y'all, man. Every day, y'all make me laugh.
Well, I'm glad you're out there listening, JD. Thank you for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, you know, you were talking about this thing with Tim Walz and the Democrats wanting to pass laws against misinformation. Well, isn't lying to the American people misinformation? When you tell me that you're a hero, that you're a war veteran, and you're not, isn't that a lie?
Well, it of course it is. A lie being something that you know not to be true at the time that you say it. Tim Walz, not JD. Tim Walz is a known liar. JD.
Yeah, he's from the house of habitual liars.
Yeah, pathological.
That's what I call this administration. Yeah, seems to be a requirement. So, but it just baffles me that they want to preach all of this, pass laws, when it's every law that they want to pass is laws that they're breaking themselves.
Well, look at, I mean, you know, in their far be it from me, JD, and thank you for the call. Far be it from me to defend them. But what else do they have? Right? I mean, can we not for a moment consider what life has to be like for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? For the last 4 years, none of your policies have worked. Your signature policy was the Inflation Reduction Act. How has that worked? Gasoline is currently up 38% since Kamala took office. Electricity, 31%. Fuel oil, 37%. Airfare, 24%. Hotels, 42%. Groceries, 22%. Eggs, 69%. Baby food, 31%. I could go on. Rent, 22%. Transportation, 31%. Car insurance, 56%.
But that's all Trump's fault.
Apparently. Well, that's the point. What else do you have? Right? All of this evidence before us, you have failed as a vice president. Joe Biden has failed as a president. So what are you left with? Well, you're screaming and yelling orange man bad, and and
in the meantime, you're playing us audio of her saying, I wouldn't have done anything different.
I wouldn't have done anything different. That's right. Can't think of a thing. Was asked twice in one day and couldn't come up with anything. So in their defense, what refuge do they have left but to tell us not to believe your lying eyes? Right? In the meantime, this broken immigration system has apparently been used to admit an Afghan national who has now been charged with planning a terrorist attack in the United States of America on Election Day. Have you heard this? The FBI has arrested an individual, 27 years of age, by the name of Nasir Ahmad Great Googly Moogly. For you newbies in the audience, that's what I say when I know that I can't pronounce someone's name. Taw, Hetty, Heedy, Great Googly Moogly. Oklahoma City. They unearthed his alleged plot to carry out a large-scale November 5th attack on public crowds, had pledged support to the Islamic State. He entered the country amid the withdrawal by the U.S. military from Kabul in 2021 under the Biden-Harris administration. Alejandro Mayorkas got his panties in a wad when asked about this. I'll play the audio next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Tennessee Men's Clinic is a one-stop shop for all things men's health. You know, they started their company back in 2014 in Nashville. Tennessee Men's Clinic opened their Midtown clinic that year. They now have a Franklin clinic as well to complement the Midtown clinic. And a lot of men are talking about it. You know what? If you've lost energy, gentlemen, if you don't have the motivation to get to the gym that you used to have. If you've reached middle age and you've lost a little enthusiasm in the bedroom, a physical intimacy and relationship intimacy is incredibly important. And if you've lost some of that, you can regain it. Thank you to the Tennessee Men's Clinic. They've got a lot of programs and products available for you. They need to diagnose you first and to talk to you about where your levels are, literally and figuratively, where your levels are in terms of your T levels and figuratively where your energy level is. And once they do that, they'll figure it out and they'll get you a program of success at Tennessee Men's Clinic. Go and find out more at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. That's TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or call them today at 615-208-9090. 208-9090 for our friends at Tennessee Men's Clinic.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got traffic problems right now. 65 northbound at Rosa Parks Boulevard. That's a crash. Metro Police there on the scene. And then in South Nashville, an injury crash right there at Murfreesboro Pike and Foster Avenue. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Here's Michelle Franzen with the Hurricane Milton update.
Milton churning off into the Atlantic after the hurricane ravaged both coasts of Florida yesterday. The storm making landfall last night as a Category 4 just south of Tampa, sparing the city the worst from the storm surge. Police Chief John Cosby in Bradenton Beach says there's damage, but it could have been much worse.
We're seeing a lot of wind damage. Roofs have been compromised. We've had some structures that were compromised. They blew off the stilts.
In St. Lucie County, at least 5 are dead after tornadoes tore through neighborhoods. President Biden and Florida's governor spoke by phone earlier.
The White House says DeSantis told the president they're still assessing the damage across the state, and he thanked the president for the extensive federal support to prepare for and respond to the storm. President Biden reiterated to DeSantis he'll provide any support the state needs to speed up the response and recovery. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
More than 3 million customers without power.
Meanwhile, officials still recovering bodies in East Tennessee and West North Carolina from Hurricane Helene. TEMA confirming 17 people have died in East Tennessee. Meanwhile, in North Carolina, Fox News reported this morning one family in a suburb of Asheville lost 11 loved ones to a mudslide. They all lived in houses next to each other there in Fairview. There's another severe storm heading to Earth. This one doesn't involve clouds, wind, or rain. Alex Stone explains.
Earth is under a severe geomagnetic storm watch today and tomorrow. NOAA has issued its warning after an outburst from the sun was detected earlier this week. A solar storm can disrupt power and radio signals. Electrical operators and space companies have been warned they could be impacted, and it could cause northern lights as far south as the Midwest and Northern California. This geomagnetic storm is expected to be less severe than one in May.
TD Bank today pleading guilty to multiple felonies, including conspiring to commit money laundering. The Canadian bank agreeing to pay about $3 billion in federal fines. Bank regulators also imposing a cap on the bank's ability to take on new U.S. deposits. This is U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland.
TD Bank created an environment that allowed financial crime to flourish. By making its services convenient for criminals, it became one.
TD Bank's a subsidiary of the Toronto Dominion Bank, has more than 1,100 locations in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, Metro D.C., the Carolinas, and Florida. And 2 days after Boeing withdrew what it had called its best and final offer, which was widely rejected by its striking union workers, 30 members of Congress, part of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, calling on Boeing and the workers to get back to bargaining in good faith to reach a deal in a timely manner, saying an agreement will benefit both Boeing and the striking workers. Well, the workers want a 40% pay raise and their pensions reinstated, which Boeing says it just can't do. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
So for the last several months, I've been telling you very exciting news at the Dr. Pa Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. They have a brand new doctor in the house. Dr. Brian McLaughlin comes with the same exceptional credentials and experience as Dr. Stephen Paas. He helps serve Middle Tennessee even better. So I did not realize when I started talking about Dr. Paas that I was a candidate to be a patient. I did not believe that I had sleep apnea because I don't snore that much at night. Well, I'm one of the small minority of people that have sleep apnea that does not snore that much, but I still have sleep apnea. I was telling Dr. Paas one day about, energy levels and just not feeling like I got a restful night's sleep. He said, Matt, you might have sleep apnea. You might want to get a test. I did, and lo and behold, I do. And so I became a patient. So I now wear an FDA-approved oral device. It goes in your mouth. It's kind of like a mouth guard for football, where it goes in your mouth. And you sleep with it. After a night or two, you don't notice the thing, and it helps keep the jaw forward, just gently forward, keeps those airways open, and you sleep better at night. You have full energy when you wake up in the morning. And as fall approaches, most people have met their insurance deductibles. It's a great time if they're in network with BCBS, Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare, and, of course, TRICARE for the military. 2 locations, Murfreesboro and Brentwood. Go to drposs.com. That's drposs.com for more information. The Dr. Paas Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 2:06, almost 2:07. Good afternoon. Welcome. Glad you're with us. Another hour to go. We'll hand off to Brian Wilson and The Drive later on this afternoon. My name is Matt, and I host a little gathering from noon until 3. And luckily, we call it the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You can find us on the airwaves, of course, 99.7 FM. We're presented everywhere, anywhere that anything is streamed, like information or music or news or any of that. We're there. Just type in Super Talk 99.7 WTN in the stream search bar, and you can find us. Or you can download our app, or you can watch on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. I have no reason to watch Super Talk TV because I have a face made for radio. But we brought one in. We brought someone in that's a great reason to view what we're doing on the television side of things. And her name is Diane Canada. I just had the wonderful pleasure of meeting her, bringing her in. She's got an event tonight. She's got a great podcast up and running. And she is all about this election that's coming up in 26 days. And we were just talking about it. And it is a pleasure to introduce our audience to Diane Canada. Good afternoon.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Matt. I appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure. You were just telling me that you're now you're in Cheatham County?
Cheatham County, I am.
That's God's country out there.
I mean, I feel like I moved into a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
I do. I totally do.
It's nice. And I feel like it's untapped. I've only been here since 2021. I don't know. How long have you been in the area?
23 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, a long time. I was so dug in Brentwood. Didn't think I'd ever budge. I've lived in some different areas of Nashville, but was in Brentwood, Franklin, the longest.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it there. And then I ran for office in 2020. After the election was over, we moved out there, and I just cannot believe how much I love it. I don't consider myself a country girl. I like it as long as the wildlife stays a little bit at bay.
Uh-huh.
I don't want them all up in my porch.
Oh, sure. They won't eat much. Don't worry about it.
Possums and the
Oh,
raccoons.
yeah. Don't worry about them. They won't eat anything. Right. Coyotes and the like and all of that sort of thing.
Just stay a nice little distance away.
I am a country boy, so I like to say that I trust four-legged creatures more than two-legged creatures.
I get that.
They're more honest in the way that they treat you, right?
It's true.
What in the world led you into the world of politics in 2020?
I went kicking and screaming in. Got to tell you, never had any ambition to go in politics. I lost my brother, who was a Marine, to PTSD. He also had a brain injury from an IED that went off when he served over there. We were a couple of years into the healing process from after his loss. And God just started nudging, how when the Lord's just talking to you, it just becomes louder and louder until you finally get it. It took me a little while, but I had some ideas that started bubbling up on how we could help veterans, thinking about getting them the help before they're separated from service. It's just part of the out processing. Started mulling on that, and that's really all I cared about doing was helping veterans. But of course, you have to go on the record about all these other things you believe, and I'd never stopped myself to ask, how do I feel about abortion? How do I feel about, So when I started studying, I went really deep. I'm one of these, I go like inch wide, mile deep whenever I'm doing anything.
Sure.
So really studied, spent a lot of time up on at the Capitol, got to know the legislators, shadowed them, tried to really learn the job. And when I started going public with my platform, I mean, it was like Pandora's box. Everybody they're so vicious, coming against so viciously, including my adult son. And, we just never had talked about politics. But it was motivated by my brother, trying to help the veterans. That was the whole purpose.
So you bring this up. I mean, so this created you being more and more vocal about what you believe in and how you believe to best benefit our fellow countrymen, our fellow Tennesseans. I mean, it led to family schism.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sad.
It's sad, but, I believe God repurposes the pain, and now it makes sense now. I think I needed to go deep on those topics. I needed to understand the cultural issues. I needed to understand so much more about our country. I mean, I've got like a massive history lesson to Constitution classes. I mean, I learned so much about our country that I wish I had known before that.
It gave me, you and I were talking a little bit off air, and it gave me a little solace. I was telling you my story about one of my best friends in the world who cut me off after Trump was elected in 2016.
I'm so sorry.
And then he wanted to reconnect in 2020 because Biden was president now, as if that made it all good. And I said, no, that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
And it bothered me for a long, long time, Diana. And then I realized, and I know it's a little more difficult with family than maybe with friends, but I realized I haven't changed. They did. And I'm sorry that whatever Trump represents and presents to the American people has done that to them. But so I can't alter myself in any way that would help them because it's them that's changed, not me. And I just have to believe that because I think a lot of things changed after 2016.
Yeah. Well, they're driven by emotion. A lot of people who are on the left, emotion is driving all their behavior and their decisions. We are about logic. We're about what's rooted in truth on our party. And it's not even about party, just being an American. If we know what our values are, we know what we stand for. People, I hear Biden talking about we're fighting for the soul of our nation. Most people don't even know what that means, but it sounds emotionally charged. So I think that it's like emotions. When it's fleeting like that, then the behavior is fleeting too. So they're coming back, oh, I'm sorry, and you're like, man, like you said, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
It's just not a healthy way to have a relationship. You can't be driven by that.
So was it your run in 2020, and you ran for what
State House of Representatives. I was trying to win us back the Beth Harwell seat.
Sure.
So I was running against Bob Freeman. He took the seat when she stepped out to run for governor. And so I was trying to win it back. And COVID hit. I mean, it was like the worst conditions, Matt, for running for office. But
not like you can get out and knock on doors and introduce yourself, right?
We did have when the Mayor Cooper was trying to, implement that big tax hike. Then that gave me an opportunity to go sit in a tent all day and help try to recall him. And so that gave me a chance to meet all my constituents. They were like, they couldn't turn their cars around fast enough to come sign the petition.
Hold on, I have to hey, Belle, did you hear that? Diane was fighting against the property tax is the property tax increase? The property tax increase. Belle likes you already.
Oh, awesome.
Because Belle is a citizen of Davidson County, and every time Cooper's brought up, the property tax increase gets brought up, right?
Well, he came in and did a interview when Dan Mandis was still in this time slot and told Dan, this was before his election, that his intention was to govern as a fiscal conservative, which turned out to be a lie.
Let's just say it. Yeah.
Well, and it's my understanding that if our man Freddie O'Connell doesn't get his transit tax increase, his sales tax increase, he's going to come back for a double dip on the property tax end next year, is my understanding. So
that's a complex issue. One of my friends, Courtney Johnston, serves on the council. I know she did a great blog about it the other day, just all the intricacies of it. Things are not simple in government, and I get that. I'm going to learn that firsthand running. When you fix one thing, you break 10, so that's why government shouldn't be all up in our business. We should be able to be self-governing.
I tell people all the time, and they think that it's just a slogan, but I consider myself a libertarian with a small L, right? I don't belong to the Libertarian Party, but I believe in that basic philosophy of government. The government serves best when it serves least and only when necessary.
Amen.
Right?
Amen. That's right. That's exactly right. It's so bloated now. They're all up in our business, and that was never the intention at our founding.
Of course not. So did you parlay that run in 2020 to the podcast, Lady Up America?
The podcast came later, a little bit. So when the race was over, we ended up finishing at 46%, which with all the obstacles, we were really proud of that. But I was also kind of a little bit mad at God. I was like, why did you put me
You
through that?
did all this to me and only to lose?
Yeah, I lost relationship with my son. I lost all my friends. You know what? And so I was just kind of licking my wounds a little. And we moved out to Cheatham, and it got me into kind of a place of solitude a bit. And I was just in a lot of prayer. And I'm like, Lord, what was the point? And then the Afghanistan thing happened, where Biden just, oh my gosh, the way he pulled us out of Afghanistan, it just. Everything my brother had gone through there.
And 13 are dead as a result of the disaster.
It was the hardest thing to watch that. And then that's when it kicked in. Like, that's when the idea for Lady Up America really started. It kind of all came together at that point.
Tell me what the purpose behind it is.
Yeah. So after losing relationships like I did, my own son, all of that, I realized that God had been teaching me how to have these really hard conversations and how to win people and not get canceled. He's been teaching me that my whole life in other areas that I'd been in professional songwriting, about messaging, and then in crisis consulting where I had to go into hostile environments and kind of turn the boat around and get it, floating right again. I knew how to have these conversations. It just didn't click that it would apply to the political conversation. Just did not dawn on me. So this is sort of what has been, developing over the last few years. So basically what I'm doing is I'm teaching women how to not screw it up like I did. I'm teaching women Christian conservative moms specifically is my niche, but teaching them how to have these really hard cultural conversations with your grown kids or your teenage kids, your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers, how to have those conversations gracefully and win people to our conservative values without the fight and with a lot more finesse and not the fight.
So I saw a stat, and I think it was men and women, but I think I saw a survey where only 60-some-odd% of Christians are voting.
Oh, yeah. 40% sit home. Yeah.
And I just feel like if you get that 40% out to vote, that this thing isn't even close.
Not even close.
And no one is suggesting that Donald Trump is a perfect guy. Nobody suggests that he says things perfectly. But, there's also nothing. I mean, if we talk about from a faith-based perspective, there's nothing that says that the vessel is going to be perfect to begin with, right?
Well,
so
whoever was. I mean, look at all the Bible stories. Gideon. I mean, nobody. Paul.
I mean, there was only one, and they hung him on a cross.
That's right. That's right.
So, I mean, if we just get that message out. So what do you find when you speak to women's groups? Maybe these are conservative-oriented women's groups. I don't know, but what do you get back in return as to what their values are? What's important to them?
They're all on board with conservative values. Most moms are conservatives. They just don't realize it. Mm-hmm. Most of them are. The only thing that's really separating that right now is the abortion issue. That's where we're apart. But all the other moms, they want safe streets. They want their kids to be able to go to schools and learn ABCs and arithmetic, not indoctrination camps. They all want these things. We want limited government. We want a good economy. We want to be able to provide for our children. They all want these things. So one of the things that came up when I was building Lady Up America, I heard Marsha Blackburn one day in an interview. She said, well, we believe in the rule of law as conservatives. And again, not being acclimated to politics, I was like, where did she get that? And then I heard somebody else say, well, are you a fiscal conservative? And I'm like, what does that mean? So I went digging for those, and I found the 7 conservative values of the Republican Party. I found them on who's now Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson's website. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of integrated that a lot into my teaching. And it's kind of like a Cliff Notes version of our Constitution. Like, if these seven values are the soul of our nation. And like I said, most of these women believe in these limited government, human dignity, and peace through strength, and the rule of law, all these things. So what I tell my ladies is, you may not have to go take a Constitution class, but you can remember 7 values. And we're not trying to return to something old and antiquated. Because this is where progressives get us, right? They're like, y'all are.
They want to put you back in the kitchen.
Yeah,
that's what they say.
Yeah, no. If you look at these as instead the load-bearing walls of our country, and we're trying to take the hammer out of the hands of those trying to knock them down. So we're trying to reinforce these load-bearing walls, and so most suburban moms are all for them.
Do you think the Republican Party, and I'm not a Republican. I like to say that I don't belong to any club that would have me as a member, much like Groucho Marx said back in the day. But do you feel like the Republican Party, in that regard, has a reputation problem, specifically with, let's say, 30-something-year-old moms, where it has a little bit of a reputation, and maybe it's earned, maybe it's unearned, where they feel like, this concept of Handmaid's Tale nonsense has kind of been ingrained in them from such an early age that it's hard for them to shake it?
I mean, so here's what I think. I think there's messaging problems on both sides of the aisle. I mean, I'm not going to say Republicans don't have a lot of work to do in that area, especially when it comes to messaging to women. I mean, I can understand why they think that. The Republican Party's had a lot of labels, a lot of stigmas they've had to overcome. But most people don't realize they're the party that tried to abolish slavery. They are the party that is for all these 7 load-bearing laws that I talked about. Again, not a perfect party, warts and all, but we are the conservative party. And so this is why I rally behind Republicans. I know we've got corruption in our party too. I know all that, and I get where the women are coming from. We're not trying to put women back in the kitchen. That's not the ideal. The way God designed the nuclear family was the husband was supposed to love the wife just like Jesus loved the church. You don't submit to all men, right? It's not a submission. It's not an oppression. It's that when you've got a godly man, then you understand that hierarchy is necessary. That the best government is the nuclear family. Mm-hmm. What happens there spills out onto the city streets. So we're never going to fix it with a law. We're never going to fix it with government. It has to start in the home. And so there are roles that we all have that God designed that are, when in a healthy household, then they work really well.
Diane Canada is our guest. Lady Up America is the podcast. I'm going to tell you how you can witness the podcast with your very eyes tonight, right? Tonight. We'll do that right after this. Quick timeout. It's 21 after the hour. You're listening to The Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. So it's October, and that means we're celebrating 7 years of Craft Body Scan and almost 3 years of Craft Body Scan being in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been talking to you about Craft Body Scan and my belief in this system for a long time now. They offer CT scans, and that technology is pretty incredible in 2024, right? They can identify things that are going on in your body before you identify them yourselves. I mean, literally, they can find things happening in your body before you feel symptomatic. And it's so important to catch certain things that are going on early. So I like to tell you, I like to keep it simple, right? You go to the dentist to get your teeth cleaned, sure, but also to check out and make sure nothing's going wrong. You go to the oil change place to get your oil changed and to make sure nothing's going wrong. Why aren't you doing this with your body, your entire body, with a full body scan from Craft Body Scan? And right now, $700 off their full body scan to celebrate their anniversary. That's an incredible opportunity. Huge savings, of course, but you can see your heart, your lung, your bone density, your chest, your pelvis, your stomach area. All of that will be examined through this health scan, and it's non-invasive. You don't have to take your clothes off or anything. It takes about 5 to 8 minutes. Book today at craftbodyscan.com or call them with more information, 615-436-1000, 615-436-1000.
Got a crash still being worked 65 northbound at Rosa Parks Boulevard, and then debris blocking the left lane of 40 westbound right before the Elm Hill Pike overpass. Got the latest on the Hurricane Milton response, and now President Biden telling Americans Congress needs to approve more money to help small businesses recover. We'll tell you about it at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is the Dentist Newscast coming up in 4 minutes on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I like to say that because I know how much it pleases Bell, Kay, and Ken Weaver when I do. It is a joke that will never get old to me. You know, Diane, let me ask Diane. We have a guest, Bell. We're going to ask Diane. Get Diane's mic on there, buddy. Diane, why would I call it the Dentist Newscast?
Why would you call
Why
it
would I call it that?
the Dentist Newscast?
Yes, it's the one and only Dentist Newscast that happens.
Because your sense of humor is painful?
because
You have a high tolerance for pain.
because it's at 2:30.
Ah.
I like Diane. She didn't give me a courtesy laugh, Weaver. She was just kind of look at me.
She
like,
just went, oh.
Oh, is that why you call it that? Well, that's nice. Can we continue with the interview now?
I was hearing you talk about the boat stuff earlier, about the sailboat stuff. I feel your pain. I went out on a boat like when I was in my early 20s. Never worked so hard. Pull the jib. I'm like, what is the jib?
Right. Am I right? Because you go out, but they don't tell you any of that. They say, hey, do you want to go out on the sailboat?
Sounds like a leisurely.
Oh, and we're going to be sipping Mai Tais.
The Christopher Cross sailing song in the background.
Exactly right. Everything's
not so much.
You're working your butt off and focused every second not to fall off.
Exactly. And then you want to kill the pilot when you get back, or the captain. Or
After I didn't mention it was 12 hours around Long Island and back. 12 hours. It's off. All right, so tell us about tonight.
Tonight.
Yes.
Awesome. So down at Fulin's, which is an Asian restaurant in the Target Shopping Center in Brentwood, right there at the interstate. 6 o'clock, everybody gathers up. We're going to kind of get everybody seated. And then 6:30, we're broadcasting my podcast live from there. Steve Gill is my co-host for the night.
Yeah, we know Steve.
Y'all know Steve. And great conservative voice for anybody who may not know. He's been around for a long time. He really has great perspective on how the federal issues and the state issues are complementary but different. So he's going to help us understand that. And then we've also got 3 candidates that are running. So we're going to have Wyatt Rampey there, who's running for state senate. We're going to have Chad Bobo, who is running for House Representatives.
I know Chad.
And also we're going to have Jennifer Frensley Webb there. So the 3 of them are on the hot seat tonight. And we're just going to be, helping people understand. Like, I know when I ran for office, there was so much from the audience perspective that, I just didn't understand how state and federal government worked. I didn't understand the difference.
Right.
And so we're going to try to help maybe fill in some blanks for people tonight. It's sponsored by the God Bless the USA Bible, which is endorsed by Lee Greenwood and Donald Trump. Just had Lee on my podcast right before I came here, so it's going to air on Tuesday for anybody who'd like to see it. But yeah, we just got a lot of good momentum behind it tonight and would love for people to come out.
All right, so it starts at what time again?
Everybody gathers up at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
It's a production, so we need everybody there and seated by 6:30. We hit the red button at 6:30, and it's going to go live stream out on YouTube tonight. And then we'll also be taping it to run next week as a traditional podcast. My podcast is on Salem Media and then all traditional podcast channels too.
Belle, do you have a question for Diane before she has to go? Obviously, we talked about a particular question prior to her coming today. Do you have anything in mind?
Yeah. How the hell is your last name Canada?
I can tell you've thought a lot about that one. I appreciate it.
It's like,
No, that's the one he said, why are we letting somebody from another country on the show? I was like, I think that's just her name.
You know what it is? I'll tell you what happened. My husband's family, when his
she's already passing the buck.
His grandfather came to Ellis Island and probably just misspelled it. They're from Ireland, so I think it was part of the Kennedy family, and they just misspelled it.
And so you oh, well, there you go, Belle. Asked and answered.
It's not near as nefarious as you thought.
She blamed her husband. That's what she did.
I don't believe her.
What is before you go in the minute or so that we have left, what is the message, particularly the message to female voters, female moms?
Sitting this election out is not an option. We are at a crossroads. It's either Donald Trump or it's straight up Marxism. So it's hard to vote. If you got to hold your nose to vote for him, I don't care, but you better be at that poll voting for him on November 5th, or we are handing our children over to Marxists. And that's my message.
That's well spoken. I mean, I wish and hope that he continues the message over the next 30 days. I heard him in Pennsylvania. This was during his town hall with Sean Hannity. And I thought it was a message that he needed to resonate over and over again. You don't have to like me. I understand if you don't.
Yeah.
But understand your existence in Pennsylvania depends on me because she's going to kill you.
Absolutely.
She's going to destroy you.
They've already shown us what they can do the last 4 years. Believe them. They'll finish it off. They'll finish America off the next 4. And I don't care if people say, oh, you're fear-mongering, all that. No, this could not be more serious. And so every mom out there listening, I hope to God you're registered, and I hope you will go vote.
Diane, it's wonderful to meet you.
Nice to
Come
meet
back
you too.
anytime.
Thanks
We'll
for
invite you
having
back
me.
on.
Appreciate it so
There's
much.
Diane Canada. It is Lady Up America is the podcast, and you're invited to go out to Foulin. Did I say that right? Foulin's restaurant in the Target Shopping Center in Brentwood.
Yep.
There you go. We'll be back in just a moment. Wrap things up on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. Milton slamming the west coast of Florida overnight as a Cat 3 hurricane. Damage from flooding and powerful winds, including deadly tornadoes on the East Coast. Governor Ron DeSantis with an update in Fort Pierce says rescues are happening now and could continue in the coming days.
Because we had more inland flooding, you're going to see some floods happen in the ensuing days, and you may have to have some people go in and do some rescues there. So I think you may see it be ongoing.
10 people confirmed dead in Florida. President Biden calling on lawmakers to get back to Washington to give more money to the Small Business Administration.
The SBA is pretty right at the edge right now. And I think the Congress should be coming back and moving on emergency needs immediately, and they're going to have to come back after the election as well.
Officials still recovering bodies in East Tennessee and North Carolina from flooding from Hurricane Helene. TEMA confirming 17 deaths in East Tennessee and in North Carolina. Fox News says one family lost 11 loved ones in a mudslide near Fairview, which is a suburb of Asheville. The city of Aurora, Colorado, putting on hold the plans to close several apartment buildings that have been at the center of claims about foreign gangs.
The Whispering Pines apartments have problems, but the police chief in Aurora says they're not run by a Venezuelan gang, as some on the campaign trail have claimed. It's actually an absentee landlord based in New York that's allowed the apartment complex to fall into ruin with trash around and general crime. Now, the city of Aurora is pausing plans to close the apartments after a judge ordered a third-party caretaker to oversee the troubled apartment buildings. Already that third-party caretaker has brought in surveillance cameras and is repairing buildings.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Defend Systems is a life safety and security consulting firm based right here in Middle Tennessee. You've met Brink Fiddler on the air with me, the Matt Murphy Show. You've met the team, Tracy, Gloria, Adam, and the rest of the crew. Defend Systems, they do what they need to do to help give you the tools, the information, and the empowerment to understand what to do in the face of a very dangerous world. I'm sad to tell you that workplace violence happens on a daily basis. I'm sad to tell you that shootings happen on a regular basis. I am sad to tell you that you need to have emergency and intruder action plans at your place of business, your school, your church. And if you don't, it's time to call Defend Systems. Now, they're not here to scare you. I'm not here to scare you. They're not here to tell you that this is going to happen to you tomorrow or next week or perhaps ever. But the chance is not zero. That means hope is not a plan. It is time to get trained, friends, with Defend Systems. Get with the best. Get with Defend Systems. DefendSystems.com for more information or call for more information at 615-236-6484, 236-6484. I don't know why this is amusing me as much as it is, and I don't know if it's going to come across on radio in the manner that I intend it. But you know those signs that you see in locations like on a lake or at a river or at the ocean that warn you against, doing certain things to woodland creatures or to ocean creatures or whatever. Don't feed the animals. Don't feed the bears in the woods or not these sorts of things. Someone sent me one. It's a sign on a post out. It looks to be at a marina. And it says, what to do when you encounter otters. Otters. Mm-hmm.
Pick them up and take them home.
This is what the sign says. What to do when you encounter, and there's a nice, there's like a silhouette of the otter right there. It says, what to do when encounter otters.
Silhouette.
Do not give them money. Do not give them money for the pub, especially Steve. Do not fall for their shenanigans. Do not give them alcohol. Even if Steve begs, do not let them have your car keys. I don't know why that makes me. I don't know.
Now, where's this
Don't tell me what to do.
I don't know. I'll
give Steve the car keys if I want to.
Well, you're in trouble.
You ought not. You ought otter.
You ought or not.
Yeah, you ought
or not. No, it's good. You ought or not give him their keys. I don't know. My father-in-law sent that to me. I don't know what that means. I do know what this means. So I got to play you this 2 minutes of audio. You'll love this. You'll love it because it demonstrates the complete and utter inefficiency and ineffectiveness and inability to do his job. That would be the Department of Homeland Security, Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. I could go on, but people get mad when I do. I could go on for minutes, but people get mad at me. So the FBI has arrested this fella whose name I cannot pronounce. So we're going to call him Great Googly Moogly. He is an Afghan national who has now been charged with planning a terrorist attack in the United States of America on Election Day. He pledged support to the Islamic State, which obviously the U.S. has designated as a foreign terrorist organization. This fella, Tawhidi, I believe it's pronounced, is believed to have entered the country amid the United States military withdrawal from Kabul, Afghanistan in 2021. And many people are asking the very right and pertinent question, how in the world did someone that wants to do damage to America and American people and American interests, how was he allowed to get through the screening and vetting process amongst the tens of thousands of Afghanis that were airlifted out? He was arrested by FBI agents Monday. Charging documents filed by the federal prosecution stated that he divulged that he and his co-conspirator had planned to die as martyrs in an attack targeting large crowds in the United States of America on Election Day, November 5th. The alleged terrorist had gone as far as ordering AK-47 rifles, liquidating his family's assets. He purchased one-way tickets for his wife and child to travel home to Afghanistan. He spent months planning this attack, according to the FBI affidavit. The co-conspirator was described as a minor and the brother of his wife. He entered the United States of America in September of 2021. So this begs the question to Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. And I won't ask the question. I'll let our intrepid reporter ask it on a call just today.
This Afghan national who was working for the CIA in Afghanistan was arrested for planning an election day terror plot. He was brought to the U.S. after Afghanistan collapsed. Your agency says as part of the SIV program. The State Department is telling us he was not part of the SIV program, which had strenuous vetting. They say he was never issued an SIV or immigrant visa, and DHS paroled him into the U.S. They further expect the court document to be updated to reflect this from the DOJ side. So, Mr. Secretary, how was this man brought into the U.S.? What screening did he undergo? What did he apply for to get here?
So before Alejandro Mayorkas answers this very pertinent question, I mean, do we not all agree that the American people deserve an answer to how the hell somebody that wants to blow up a bunch of Americans got here? He's fidgeting in his seat. He's grumping. He's looking at the camera all grumpy. Yeah, like that, Belle. Exactly like that. You can't see headless Belle, but I can. Oh, he's fidgeting in his seat, and he's moving, he's shuffling papers around while she's asking.
You hold me accountable.
Yeah, that's exactly what he looks like. And here's his answer.
Jackie, I'm here in North Carolina communicating with the individuals who are still conducting search and rescue operations. Over 200 people have lost their lives in Hurricane Helene. We have reports that at least 10 individuals have lost their lives as a result of Hurricane Milton. I'd be very pleased to answer your question in a different setting, but we're here to talk about emergencies and the support that we can deliver to people in desperate need.
Okay, so before she follows up, I'll ask you the question. Can you think, I mean, obviously this emergency is a very important thing, and disaster response is ongoing. I thought that's why we have a director of FEMA. I mean, I thought that, you know, the Department of Homeland Security didn't exist before 2001. Hurricanes did. Tornadoes did. FEMA did.
I think you're exaggerating.
I mean,
we really have any bad weather before FEMA.
Right? I mean, so how in the hell, if we didn't have a Department of Homeland Security secretary sitting in a stupid office somewhere with his stupid, grumpy look on his face, how did we not all die from hurricanes before there was a Department of Homeland Security? And you know what? Far be it from me to suggest this, but can you not walk and talk and chew bubblegum and handle multiple things at the same time, dude? Or maybe it's that you just don't want to answer this question.
Thank you.
I get that, Mr. Secretary, but we're getting conflicting answers from your agency and from the State Department about a man who was arrested for an election day terror plot. How do you not have those answers prepared?
Oh, Jackie, that's not what I said. What I said is I'd be pleased to discuss this issue at a different time, but I am here to speak about disasters that have impacted people's lives in real time, and that is the subject that I am addressing today.
So, in other words, I have an answer, but I'm not going to give it to the American people right now. Why not? Where you got to be, bud? We got 26 days to go before the election. You have an Afghani that came into this country somehow that was going to blow people up. And thank God we caught him, and good for the field agents on the ground and whomever was responsible for. I say a lot of bad about the FBI. Good for the FBI if they're responsible for catching this dude. And you're saying now, it's not that I don't have the answer. I have the answer. I'm just not going to tell you because I think it would be inappropriate.
Well, I think you're being a little unreasonable because he is right in the middle of trying to justify his existence and the expenditures and try to figure out a way to get a budget increase. So we need to take care of that. Then we can get back to facts.
I mean, this is the same schmuck that came on the heels of Hurricane Helene hitting the southeastern United States, and the first thing out of his mouth is we don't have any more money. All of this money question came from Alejandro Mayorkas saying we don't have any more money. We need more money.
But we didn't spend it on illegals.
Right. And so we're left with asking the question. I mean, that's how that food chain worked, right? He says we don't have any more money. And America's like, what are you talking about? And the liberals are like, you have to get the conservatives back in Washington, D.C. The Republicans have to allocate more money to us. Otherwise, we don't have any money. And America's like, where did all the money go? And we start looking, and all the money went to all of these illegal alien migrant programs in these various cities, documented, every bit of it documented. I have Karine Jean-Pierre, I have Alejandro Mayorkas himself declaring that FEMA was directing the money to illegal migrants. And he said they didn't have any more money. That was your first response, bud. You didn't worry about any of the dead or the dying or the people cut off from the rest of their neighbors and from society at large. Your first thought was cash. Now you get caught with your pants down allowing terrorists into this country and you got no answers.
We can deliver to people in desperate need. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Mr. Secretary, but we're getting conflicting answers from your agency and from the State Department about a man who was arrested for an election day terror plot. How do you not have those answers prepared?
Jackie, that's not what I said. What I said is I'd be pleased to discuss this issue at a different time, but I am here to speak about disasters that have impacted people's lives in real time, and that is the subject that I am addressing today.
Mr. Secretary, can you assure people that appropriate steps have been taken to secure the country against these kinds of threats? Because the outstanding question is whether this man was radicalized before the U.S. government brought him here or afterward. And people should be concerned about that.
Jackie, your persistence in questioning can be matched by my persistence in answers.
And then somebody on the line giggles because that's funny. I'm not going to answer any of this. I don't think it's very funny.
It literally was, she asked her question, and he basically says, you can ask that question as much as you want to because I can obfuscate as much as I want
I'm not going to give you an answer. And he wasted a minute. Oh, well, that clip that I just played you was 2 minutes and 12 seconds long. In that amount of time, he could have answered the question. He just doesn't want to answer the question because it's another example of how these people are not ready for prime time. Vote Trump. It's 51 after the hour. Bell K's responsible for that. Matt Murphy takes no responsibility for that little bumper that was just played or whatever it was. Because I know that every time somebody says Friday Eve, a puppy dies. It's 57 after the hour. Brian Wilson. Brian, I feel like I've been remiss in our conversations over the last couple of days because I have. I've missed you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing really well. And can we just stop for a moment and congratulate the morning man on this radio station?
Yeah,
Dan
baby.
Manders, for winning a Marconi Award as the best large market personality in America.
How about that, man?
I mean, really, honestly, this station, I feel, I'm speaking about myself here as well, but I think we've really got a great lineup and a tremendous amount of talent.
Love it.
And I'm very proud for Dan, very excited that he won this award. He's one of the hardest working guys I know.
Well, congratulations to him. And every time Mandis is up for an award like this, at least in the length of time that I've known him, he says the same thing. I'm not going to win. They don't let us win.
I talked to him yesterday when he was getting on the plane. Yeah, no, I'm not going to win this. There's no chance, but I'm going anyway. And then he wins it. Yeah.
Well, that's what I told him last night when he told us he'd won. I was like, Dan, I'm so sad for you that you can no longer say that it's rigged. Well, no, well deserved. And let me tell you something. Since December of 2021, I've thought the same thing every day I come in here. I'm so honored to be alongside people like Brian Wilson, Ken Weaver, Dan Mandis. And Chris Hand is now on board. It's just an absolute honor to come to work every day.
Yeah, it's a good lineup, a good station, and we're really lucky to have both Joan Jones doing the news in the morning and Ken Weaver in the afternoon. Two really solid news professionals.
Checks in the mail, boys. Checks in the mail.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Mr. Wilson, with all of that in mind, what's the award-winning broadcast going to be about today, my friend?
Well, we're going to get the hurricane coverage out of the way because quite frankly, there was damage, and yes, it was bad in some places, but not as bad as it could have been. The storm took a little dip at the last minute, and it couldn't have been a more appropriate time for it to do so, and that meant that Tampa Bay and that whole area was spared what could have been a real disaster. So we'll talk about that. Inflation is up. I've got some, I think, very positive 2024 news. Something is happening out there, and I see a trend developing, and it's good for our side. So we'll talk about all that coming up starting at 3 o'clock.
It's like a Buffalo Springfield song. There's something happening here.
What it is becoming clear.
Well, and Brian Wilson will make it perfectly clear this afternoon on The Drive, and we're looking forward to that. That's happening right after Ken Weaver's newscast. And I have it on good authority that Ken Weaver's newscast is happening right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Until tomorrow, friends, a First Amendment Freestyle Friday. Have a great afternoon. Hug your loved ones. So long, everybody.